Let's explore the fascinating findings from the State Similarity Index, a unique set of data that takes into account demographics, culture, politics, infrastructure, and geography. By comparing and contrasting the characteristics of each U.S. state, the dataset reveals pairs of states that could be combined to have the most traits of another American state. For example, Minnesota is the most similar state to Wisconsin, but Indiana has many characteristics of Wisconsin that Minnesota does not have. Both Wisconsin and Indiana have economies that are heavily dependent on manufacturing. In contrast, Minnesota has a more diverse economy, with strong sectors in healthcare, education, and technology. Its people tend to be more educated than Wisconsin and Indiana as well. Unlike Minnesota, Wisconsin and Indiana have voted for Republican presidential candidates and senators in recent elections. Montana is the most similar state to Alaska. Although Hawaii is far different from Alaska, the data shows that it has many traits of Alaska that Montana lacks. While Montana is landlocked, Hawaii and Alaska have a lot of coastline that borders the Pacific Ocean. They also have a more diverse population than Montana, since they have a higher percentage of Asians, Latinos, and indigenous people. They also have a higher percentage of unmarried people than Montana. Hawaii and Alaska are two of a handful of states that do not even have a lottery as well. According to the index, Kentucky is clearly the most similar state to West Virginia. However, Vermont has a few characteristics of West Virginia that Kentucky lacks. West Virginia and Vermont are more mountainous and have a higher percentage of forested land. Furthermore, these states lack any large metropolitan areas like Louisville. In addition, they have a higher percentage of white people. West Virginia and Vermont also have lower incarceration rates and a higher percentage of union members than Kentucky. Although they have many differences, Oklahoma is the most similar state to Texas. One state that has many traits of Texas that Oklahoma lacks is Florida. Both states have long coastlines along the Gulf of Mexico. In contrast, Oklahoma is landlocked. Furthermore, Florida and Texas have more diverse populations. They have a much higher percentage of Catholics and Latinos than Oklahoma. Texas and Florida also have significantly lower rates of smoking and suicide than Oklahoma. According to the index, Ohio is the most similar state to Pennsylvania. However, Pennsylvania's geography is much more like New York's than Ohio's. These states are more mountainous and more densely forested as well. Most of the water in Pennsylvania and New York flows into the Atlantic Ocean, while Ohio's flows into the Mississippi River. In addition, both states were part of the original 13 colonies. Furthermore, people in Ohio tend to be more interested in football and country music than the Northeast region. Oregon and Washington are two of the most similar states, but Connecticut has some traits in common with Washington that Oregon lacks. The people in Washington and Connecticut tend to be wealthier and more well-educated. Their populations are more racially diverse than Oregon's as well. In addition, a higher percentage of people in Washington and Connecticut use public transportation, since they have a higher percentage of people living in urban areas. Connecticut and Washington also have lower rates of illicit drug usage than Oregon. By far the most similar state to Alabama is Mississippi, but Tennessee has many traits of Alabama that Mississippi does not have. Alabama and Tennessee are more mountainous than Mississippi. They also have a lower percentage of black people. Furthermore, marriage is legal for first cousins in Alabama and Tennessee, but not in Mississippi. These states are more densely populated than Mississippi as well. According to the index, the most similar state to Arizona is Nevada. However, Texas has many characteristics of Arizona that Nevada does not have. Arizona was once a Confederate territory and allowed slavery, unlike Nevada. In addition, Republicans are more popular in Arizona and Texas than in Nevada. Arizona and Texas also have warmer climates than Nevada, since they are located further to the south. Moreover, both states produce a significant amount of cotton as well. According to the index, Kentucky is the most similar state to Missouri. However, Nebraska has many of the characteristics of Missouri that Kentucky lacks. These states have a higher percentage of people with German ancestry. They also have a far higher percentage of college graduates than Kentucky. Furthermore, most people in Missouri and Nebraska do not have a Southern accent. Unlike Kentucky, their territory was once part of the Louisiana Purchase. Massachusetts is the most similar state to Rhode Island according to the index. However, Delaware has some characteristics of Rhode Island that Massachusetts does not have. Rhode Island and Delaware tend to have a lower percentage of college graduates, and their people are not as wealthy. Furthermore, Massachusetts is less religious than these states. In addition, there are no buildings taller than 150 meters in Rhode Island and Delaware. They are also less mountainous, and more of their land is close to the coast. According to the index, Minnesota is the most similar state to Illinois. One state that has aspects of Illinois that Minnesota lacks is New Jersey. These states have a higher percentage of blacks and Latinos than Minnesota. They also have more restrictions on guns and less restrictions on abortions. In addition, New Jersey and Illinois are more densely populated and have more skyscrapers. Furthermore, more people use mass transit in these states than in Minnesota. Ohio is by far the most similar state to Indiana, according to the index. But Kansas has some attributes of Indiana that Ohio does not have. These states more often vote for Republican political candidates than Ohio. Kansas and Indiana also have fewer doctors, firefighters, and policemen per capita. Another reason is that basketball is more popular in Kansas and Indiana due to their successful college basketball programs. Furthermore, these states have a higher percentage of farmland and a lower percentage of forested land than Ohio. According to the index, Montana is the most similar state to Colorado. However, the data shows that California has many of the traits of Colorado that Montana lacks. Montana has far less Latinos than Colorado and California. Its people also have a lower income per capita. Both Colorado and California had universities in the Pac-12 and the Mountain West, unlike Montana. In addition, these states are more liberal and favor the Democratic Party more than Montana. Massachusetts is the most similar state to Connecticut. Even so, Illinois has some traits of Connecticut that Massachusetts does not have. Unlike Massachusetts, there are more Protestants than Catholics in Connecticut and Illinois. Furthermore, the people in Connecticut and Illinois are slightly more religious than in Massachusetts. In addition, the state legislatures in Massachusetts are more heavily dominated by Democrats than legislatures in Connecticut and Illinois. But unlike Massachusetts, these states also allow undocumented immigrants to get driver's licenses and in-state college tuition. According to the index, Wisconsin is easily the most similar state to Minnesota. However, Colorado has a few characteristics of Minnesota that Wisconsin lacks. A large portion of both states was originally part of the Louisiana Purchase. Colorado and Minnesota are also less densely forested and less densely populated. They are also slightly wealthier and more educated on average as well. In addition, Colorado and Minnesota have higher minimum wages and more Democratic justices on their state Supreme Courts. Maryland is by far the most similar state to Delaware, but Florida has a few more characteristics in common with Delaware than Maryland. Both states are not as wealthy as Maryland and have more mobile homes. In addition, most homes in both states were built after 1980. Delaware and Florida have many pine trees, and their terrains are also quite flat, while Maryland is more mountainous and has more broadleaf forests. New Hampshire is easily the most similar state to Maine. However, Oregon has a few characteristics of Maine that New Hampshire does not have. These states have lower average incomes and less college graduates than New Hampshire. Unlike New Hampshire, both states had outlawed interracial marriage before 1900. Oregon and Maine also have higher rates of gun ownership and more people with hunting licenses. These states are also less densely populated than New Hampshire and have more coastline. According to the index, Delaware is the most similar state to Maryland. Massachusetts is one state that has many traits of Maryland that Delaware lacks. Since Maryland is in Washington, D.C.'s metropolitan area, it has a higher percentage of college graduates than Delaware. These states also have a higher average income per capita than Delaware. Maryland and Massachusetts allow voting without an ID and restore the right to vote to prisoners upon their release. In addition, these states have more skyscrapers and a lower percentage of mobile homes than Delaware. According to the index, Alabama is the most similar state to Arkansas. However, Oklahoma has many traits of Arkansas that Alabama lacks. Oklahoma and Arkansas were both part of the Louisiana Purchase. They are further to the west than Alabama and are landlocked. Furthermore, these states have a lower percentage of black people. In addition, most of Alabama's railroads are run by different companies than railroads in Oklahoma and Arkansas. Georgia is by far the most similar state to Florida. Still, the data shows that Hawaii has many traits of Florida that Georgia does not have. Hawaii and Florida are well-known tourist destinations due to their beautiful beaches. Both have significantly more coastline than Georgia and also warmer climates. These states also have little manufacturing output. Furthermore, the people in Hawaii and Florida tend to be less religious than Georgians. According to the index, Mississippi is the most similar state to Louisiana. However, Florida has some traits of Louisiana that Mississippi lacks. While Mississippi has the lowest percentage of Catholics in the country, Louisiana and Florida have over 20%. They are also more densely populated and have more skyscrapers. Their people also have faster internet speeds and more vehicles per capita than Mississippi. Furthermore, Louisiana and Florida have more coastline with lots of swampland. Let us know what other pairs of states you think should have made this list. Please like and subscribe to the Objective Lists channel, as there will be even more interesting videos coming soon. For more insights and analysis, please visit objectivelists.com for new and thought-provoking articles about our world.